Hi everybody, my name is Helen. I live in New Zealand and this is basically my first YouTube video. I've been watching YouTube videos for years and I just feel like it's time for me to make my own video and share my testimony as to how I became a believer in the Lord. And so I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of some background information on me, my journey, and how I became a believer in the Lord Jesus. So bear with me because this is my first video. If you see me looking down, it's just because I wrote some notes. I don't forget what I'm talking about. So I just wanted to start off by saying that I grew up in a non-Christian household. I know that my grandmother was, she worked in the church. I never really heard her talking about the Lord. I'm guessing she was a believer. However, I never heard her speaking about the Lord. So I think I may have gone to church with her a couple of times, but that was when I was really young, so I don't really remember it. So anyway, I was adopted at birth when I was a baby. Something that I always knew about. I don't remember my parents ever sitting down and having this chat with me, but I do remember, I just remember knowing that I was adopted. So I didn't have any brothers or sisters, it was just me and my mum and my dad. So as far as I am aware, I had a pretty normal childhood. I like to think that I had a normal childhood. I was a fairly happy kid. I was quite loud and a little bit crazy, but I still am. I've toned down a little bit since I've gotten older. But anyway, I had a fairly normal upbringing. I do remember when things started going wrong for me, and it was probably when I was about 11 or 12. I became quite rebellious. I just was really rebellious towards my parents. I was quite, probably wasn't really quite a nice person to be around. I just didn't like my mum. I didn't like my dad. I didn't like school. I just became a really rebellious kid. When I got to high school, I was wagging high school quite a lot. I didn't enjoy high school one little bit. I think I left when I was like 16. I think that's like the leaving age here in New Zealand, that you can leave school. I left at 16 and I went on and did some courses and things like that, and I got my first job working with my dad, and I think that's kind of when life started picking up a little bit for me. I had a good group of girlfriends at that stage, and we were going out quite a bit, partying. I was drinking alcohol. I was having, relationships with boys, and by that stage I had already had an abortion. I got pregnant when I was quite young and had an abortion. And yeah, I just, my life was a real series of ups and downs. I remember my life would kind of go like that, and it would go up, and then it would go right down, and then it would go like that, and it would go down, and it would go up, and it was just always a little bit chaotic. I was never just on track, I felt like I was always going off course. And I never really was settled. I would go from job to job. I never knew what I wanted to be. Like, I remember being asked at school, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I would say, I don't know. All the kids seemed to know what they wanted to do, but I never knew what I wanted to do. It was just something that I just never knew. So anyway, I I remember, it might have been early 20s, I was going to the nightclubs and I was doing lots of partying and lots of drinking, and about this time I started smoking weed. And the friends of mine, they were doing it, and I just thought, oh, well, why not? I'll give it a go. But that was the wrong thing to do. I was smoking it every day. I thought I had it under control, but obviously I didn't. I was going in and out of jobs. I just wasn't settled. So I'd also had a couple of boyfriends at this stage, and they didn't really work out either. So anyway, I remember I met this one guy, and he was a little bit of a bad boy, if you want to call it that. He was the sort of person that you don't want to bring home to meet your mum, and I was attracted to him. He was in and out of jail, he was a drug user, and for some reason I was really attracted to that. About 3 months after being in a relationship with him, I contracted hepatitis C, and I got really, really sick really fast. And I remember going to the hospital, and the specialist said to me, we're going to need to put you on medication because otherwise you're going to have chronic, liver problems if we don't put you on medication. So I remember when my mum came to that first hospital appointment with me, I remember she was crying, and she said, look, if I've got to take a loan out to pay for this medication, I will, because it was thousands and thousands of dollars. Luckily, the ministry here in New Zealand was able to fund it for me. So I moved back home. I went on this medication for 2 years. I remember I was really, really sick. I lost a lot of weight. I became really depressed. I became bedridden. Most days I couldn't get out of bed. I was just so sick. But instead of just looking after myself and trying to get better, I was still using drugs. I was still smoking weed. I would still drink alcohol. I was taking acid, ecstasy. I was popping pills. You name it, I was doing it all. I remember I moved back out of home, and I was still with this guy, and I remember I was cleared of Hep C, but then it came back, so then I had to go back on the medication yet again. And so after this relationship, I left that relationship, and a couple of years later, I remember moving back home, and then I remember I got into another relationship. It was really weird because I would give up drugs, and then I would start again. I would stop drinking, and then I'd start again, and then it was always so up and down. I just couldn't. It was like I was living in denial. I think my parents thought at times, I don't know what they thought, I don't know whether they knew that I was really bad, or they just thought, what's going on with her, My parents never really talked to me about things much. There was not a lot of communication in our house, so that kind of made it really hard. I just sort of got by and just lived my life and didn't really bother them about what I was going through. However, I ended up meeting this guy, and he was a Christian, and that's kind of when my life started changing. We got talking to each other, and he would talk to me about the Lord, and he was really passionate about it. He would talk to me about the Bible, and I'd always tried picking up a Bible, and I'd read half a page and just be like, oh, this isn't for me, I don't understand a word of it, so I'd put it down again. I think that happened maybe half a dozen times in my life. I'd pick up a Bible, and then I'd go to read it, and no, I don't understand it, so I'll put it back down. So anyway, when I met this guy, we had a lot of things in common. He had gone through a lot of stuff, similar stuff, to what I'd gone through. So I found that I had a lot in common with him. And so after being friends for a while, we ended up being in a relationship together, and quite early on we ended up having a daughter. And by this stage we were kind of like, we were seeking the Lord, like, you know, he was more into it than what I was. I think he really had a hard time trying to convince me that the Lord was real. He was trying to convince me, you know, to read the Bible, to do this, do that, and I probably was a little bit more hesitant. I would probably tell him to shut up on quite a few occasions. I just didn't want to hear it. But he didn't give up on me. He persevered, and he just kept going. And yeah, so I was really lucky to have him in my life. So anyway, I remember thinking to myself at one point, when after I had my daughter, I was just like, I was still smoking weed and wasn't drinking. I'd given up drinking, but I was still smoking weed. I'd always found it really difficult to give up the weed. Like, it was something that I just found, I struggled so much with giving it up. I wanted to give it up, but I couldn't. I was also, I'd also struggled with stealing as well. During my drug use, when I was heavily using drugs, I was stealing a lot. Like, I'd go to the supermarket and steal lots of food and stuff because I didn't have money to buy food. And I also had a dog. He was my companion. Like, he got me through so many bad days, you know, and I always made sure that he was fed and taken care of, you know. And so I was stealing and using drugs and just living a real horrible life. But when I met this guy, and you know, he was a Christian, and when after we had our daughter, like, I just knew that I needed to change for her. You know, I knew I wanted to be a good mum, and so that she gave me the determination to change. And you know, and also he did too. You know, I wanted to change. I was sick of, I was in my my mid-30s by this stage, and I just knew I needed to change, and I just knew that everything that I had tried had failed. So I was like, well, you know, what have I got to lose? So anyway, we were watching YouTube videos, and we came across this pastor from Australia, and lo and behold, he was going to come to Auckland. And so we were like, we've got to get on a plane, we've got to go and see him, we need help big time, and this is our opportunity for our lives to change. So we jumped on a plane and we went up to Auckland to see him. And I can remember I was sitting there, and I'd been praying so much to the Lord, like, please Lord, please help me, I need your help, I need your help so badly, please help. And I can remember about 10 minutes into the meeting, this pastor, he came down the middle of the aisle and he pointed to me and he said, the Holy Spirit's located you. And I was like, me? What, me? He was like, yeah, you. I remember just like Jasmine, like my daughter, was on my lap, and I was like, right, you have it, I'm going up there. And I remember I told him what my problem was, and he said basically that drugs he's like, drugs aren't your problem, it's your heart. And he said to me, did something happen to you? He said, something happened to you when you were a child. And I said, yeah. I said, I was adopted. And I said, I think it's always, you know, hurt me. I said, even though I didn't think that it had affected me. And I remember everything from that day forward changed. And I can remember, I remember he blew on me, and I fell on the ground, and I can remember my heart was just beating out of my chest so fast, like I was having this like supernatural experience. I couldn't explain it. So anyway, I remember getting up off the ground, and I just remember looking out at everyone, and I was looking around the room, and if you've ever taken ecstasy, you'll know what I'm talking about, like the lights and the colours of the room were so bright. It was like I had just been transformed. It's like this cloudiness had just been, like a film. It's like a film had been lifted off my eyes, and I could finally see. And I was free, and I felt love, and I felt peace and joy and happiness like I just never had felt that before. And I remember him saying to us, he said to my partner, why don't you ask her to marry you? So he asked me to marry him, and I remember we got our wedding day. The Lord gave us our wedding day, and I remember we went back the next day, and he said, you'll get married on the 15th of November. The Lord has given me a date. It's going to be the 15th of November. And we were just like, wow, this is so cool. I remember we got back to Christchurch, and I didn't touch weed again. It was like my last, like, the weed was gone. It was like I'd never ever felt freedom like this. Like I had tried, I'd been smoking weed for like 20 years, and I'd never been able to give up, and I was able to just give up just like that. So no withdrawals, no bad, I don't know, I've heard people say that when you try and give up marijuana you have bad nightmares. Like none of that, none of that. Right, so this was in July last year that this all happened. So we were told that we needed to find a church and get baptized. And so we did all that. We just knew that we couldn't live in sin anymore. We didn't want to be fornicators. We didn't want to live in that sin, and I think that's what really pushed us to going to see this man of God. We just knew that we needed help, and the only person that could help us was Jesus. He's the only one, because we tried to do it on our own and we couldn't succeed. And so all glory to God. He changed me. He changed me. So that's pretty much my testimony. So we got married on November the 15th, and it was the best day. The Lord knows that I hate cold weather, and He made the day so warm and so beautiful. It was with just our close family. We couldn't afford a big wedding, so it was a very small wedding, but it was a perfect wedding. So this is about a year ago that this all happened, and I'm just so determined to tell people, if you need help and your life is just a mess, or you are depressed, or you are struggling with addictions of any sort, whether it be drinking, gambling, smoking weed, whatever the problem, please seek help in the Lord, because He wants to help you. I am a living testimony to that fact, that I was like any other person in the world. I didn't believe in Jesus. I didn't think He was real. I always wanted to believe that there was a God out there, but I never saw Him. I never knew of Him, so therefore He can't have been real. But wow, glory to Him. He's just changed me. I love Him so much. If it wasn't for Him, I don't think I'd be sitting here today doing this video, and it's all because of Him that I'm sitting here and I'm able to share my testimony on YouTube, which I never thought I'd do in 100 years. And it's because He changed me, and He's just, I just love Him so much. So please, if any of you guys see this video, just if you want to ask me any questions, just feel free to ask me any questions. I'll link some videos down below that I watch that inspire me and that help me, and maybe they might help you too. I'd love to be able to make some more videos in the near future, but yeah, so I hope you guys are blessed by this video, and I just want to say that the Lord can help you. If He can help me, He can help you. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I really hope that I'll be able to do some more videos really soon. So thank you for watching and have a blessed day.